I ultimately believe that Apple is looking towards the future, as they've said, that 3 to 5 year horizon. And when you think about what's happening with wearables, what they've done with augmented technology, what might happen with a pair of Apple glasses, that's the stuff that really gets me excited.
Trip, what's your headline reason for a sell rating?
Let me give you a framework for investors to think about. In 2018, Apple did a $73 billion of share buyback, $14 billion in paying dividends, and $3 billion in paying interest on debt. A total of $90 billion, total wasted money. None of that $90 billion is related to innovation. Look at the industry leaders. Tesla, Elon Musk, Amazon, Alexa, John Rubinstein, and many startups. They are stirring the ocean. Apple is only stirring the cup. The problem is this, go ahead.
But Trip, I mean, long term, they have a very clear track record of fantastic innovation, and their cash balance is so high, you wouldn't expect them to spend it all on research.
No, actually that's wrong. If you think about what is the focus of Apple's executive team, $90 billion of this per annum liability versus, and that is taking the focus out of innovation. This nonsense has to stop if Apple needs to innovate. Remember two things. First, all the successful products Apple launched was Steve Jobs' product roadmap. Anything that was not on the Steve Jobs roadmap has been a royal disaster. Example, Apple HomePod looks like a toilet paper.
Ted, what's your view in terms of the innovation? I mean, on the phone that's most important to them,
Yep.
They do suddenly look a little bit behind the foldable phones, the likes of Samsung, Huawei.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at those devices, you have to look at the Apple phone or the iPhone right now and say, well, they're behind. You've also seen phones come out now that have 5 cameras on the back, and that's a little bit concerning. But I'm really looking to Apple to kind of leapfrog, right? It's not just about being able to turn your phone into a tablet. It's what's next. And that's where I'm really excited about what Apple may deliver in the future.
But if Samsung and Huawei and these other companies that make phones are able to compete with Apple on bringing content to the scene, making advances in healthcare, the wearables that go along with this. If you see the same sort of leapfrogging in terms of hardware technology that we're seeing on the phones
Yep.
in other areas, is that a threat to Apple?
I think it is a threat, but I think that what Apple still has is the ecosystem. My company develops apps, and I can tell you that developing apps for the Apple ecosystem is way better than developing apps for the Android ecosystem. And it's because those devices are so diverse, they have different standards, they have different hardware, and it makes it really difficult to deliver the optimal user experience at the end of the day.
The other thing is, Trip, when you're talking about the bond balance, the corporate debt that Apple has, money has been really cheap. Why wouldn't they take that on?
Let me give you another framework to think about. Companies can be categorized into 4 categories. Companies who create services, companies who create products, companies who create markets, and the companies who create industries. Idiots create services. Smart company creates products. Super smart companies create markets. And exponentially smart companies create industries. This $90 billion that Apple had can create multiple industries. The problem is there is no person who has vision in Apple. The only person that I can think about who has the vision and help Apple out with innovation is John Rubinstein, the father of iPod and the brains behind the massively successful Amazon Alexa. Spend $2 billion and get that guy in. That is the only way I think investors will see innovation back in Apple.